All right, welcome to the explainer. You're using it right now, but have you ever stopped to think about who actually invented the internet? I mean, really? Well, the answer is way more complicated and honestly, way more interesting than you probably think. So let's get into it.
Okay, so who gets the credit here? Was it just one person? Some big company? The government? You could ask 10 different experts and get 10 different answers. And that's because the real story, it's not about some single eureka moment. It's more like a giant puzzle, built piece by piece over decades.
Any conversation about who invented the internet just has to start with this famous and famously misunderstood quote from Al Gore. And let's just get this out of the way. No, he didn't invent the internet. But what he said, well, it kind of accidentally opens the door to the real story. And trust me, that story is so much better. All right, to find that very first piece of the puzzle, we've got to go back, way back. See, the story of the internet doesn't kick off in some garage in Silicon Valley like you might think. Nope, it starts with the high-stakes, nail-biting tension of the Cold War. So, picture this. It's 1957. The Soviet Union launches Sputnik 1, and boom, it sends this absolute shockwave across the United States. So in response, the government scrambles and creates ARPA, this super high-tech research agency. And they handed their top minds a pretty terrifying problem. How in the world do you build a communication system that could actually survive a nuclear attack? The answer they came up with? A decentralized network. One with no single point of failure, no single weak spot. And this is the first thing that came out of that idea. ARPANET. It was this pioneering network. And the whole point was to connect these massive mainframe computers at different universities and research labs. Sure, the goal was to share resources, but its real superpower? That decentralized design. It made it tough, resilient, right from the get-go. Okay, so the network is built. The moment of truth has arrived. It's time to send the very first message. Now, what do you think they sent? Something profound, right? Like, hello, world? Or maybe something historic, like, what hath God wrought? Well, the reality? It's a little more human and a lot funnier. Let's set the scene. It's October 29th, 1969. And the entire network, this grand experiment, was made up of just two computers. That's it. One at UCLA and the other one hundreds of miles away at Stanford. So you've got this student programmer, Charlie Klein, sitting at the terminal at UCLA. And he starts typing the command to log into the Stanford computer. He types L, and hey, Stanford gets it. He types O, success, it's working. And then, crickets. The whole system just crashes. And there you have it. The very first message ever sent across the forerunner to the internet was low, like L-O, as in, lo and behold, a new age of communication had just begun with a spectacular crash. It's just a perfect, accidental, hilarious piece of history. So, ARPANET is growing, which is great, but it wasn't the only game in town. Other networks started popping up all over the world, and this created a brand new problem. A big one. It was like a digital Tower of Babel. All these networks were speaking different languages, so they couldn't understand each other at all. A computer on one network had absolutely no way to talk to a computer on another. What they needed was a universal translator. And in the world of computers, we call that a protocol. Really, it's just a set of rules, a common language that everyone agrees on. It lets all these different devices, built by totally different people in totally different countries, speak the exact same digital language. And the brilliant solution they came up with was something called TCP/IP. The easiest way to think about it is like a postal service for data. TCP, that's the part that breaks your message into little packets and then makes sure every single one arrives safely and in the right order. And IP? Well, that's the address label on each of those packets, telling it precisely where in the world it needs to. This protocol, TCP/IP, this is the magic glue. This is what truly created the internet, or as we call it, the internet, a network of networks. And for this absolutely foundational breakthrough, two computer scientists, Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn, are rightly called the fathers of the internet. These guys are legends. But hold on, we're not there yet. Even with this amazing common language, the internet was still basically a clubhouse for scientists and researchers. I mean, yeah, it was incredibly powerful, but for an average person, it was totally cryptic, basically impossible to use. There was one final, absolutely crucial piece of the puzzle still missing. And this is where we have to clear something up, because almost everyone gets this confused. The internet and the World Wide Web, they're not the same thing. Think of it this way. The internet is the infrastructure. It's all the wires and computers connected together, like a giant global system of roads and highways. The World Wide Web, on the other hand, is the stuff that uses those highways. It's all the websites, the pages, the links. It's the cars and the buildings and all the places you actually go. So who gave us the web? That would be Tim Berners-Lee, a British computer scientist working at CERN. Back in 1989, he invented this whole toolbox that just made the internet usable for normal people. Things you've heard of, HTML, URLs, and HTTP. He's the guy who put a friendly, clickable face on this complex network, and in doing so, he literally changed the world. Okay, so let's recap. We've got the Cold War origins, the first crashed message, the universal language that connected everything, and finally, the user-friendly face that let everyone in. It feels like we've seen all the major pieces fall into place. So I think it's time we go back to that very first question. So who really invented the internet? After everything we've just talked about, who actually gets the credit? Is it the US military for starting it? Is it Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn for creating the language? Or is it Tim Berners-Lee for making it usable? Well, the real answer is all of them. And honestly, so many more people. You've got the visionaries who first dreamed it up, the architects who built the actual foundation, the librarian, if you will, who organized it all, and people like Radia Perlman who solved key routing problems, or Elizabeth Feinler who basically created the original phone book for the internet. The list just goes on and on and on. So many brilliant people adding their own crucial piece to this massive puzzle. So if there's one thing you take away from this, it should be this. There is no single inventor of the internet. It wasn't some single event. It was a process, a slow, evolving collaboration. It's honestly one of the greatest team projects in all of human history, with brilliant minds building on top of each other's work year after year, decade after decade. And you know what? That process is still not over, not by a long shot. The internet is always evolving, always being rebuilt and reimagined. It's like this living, breathing thing that's still being invented right now, today. Which leaves us with one final thought. This incredible puzzle, it's still not finished. So the question is, what piece will you add?